So as we're getting closer to 2026, you might be asking yourself, what are some of the pros and cons of Turo? Well, I can tell you as a host that has generated six figures of revenue from 2025 in Turo, I've been doing this now for about 2.5 years. Some of the things that I think are both good and bad when it comes to Turo. First, for social proof though, let me show you that I can back up what I'm talking about. So here's our Turo profile right here, where you can see our earnings 106,428 for 2025. We grew that from 2024 having 46,349 and 2023 when we first started $6,818. So I think for this year we'll probably be on track to get close to 120, which is awesome because we started the year with about 8 cars, grew it up to 17. Generally speaking though, even with 17 cars, we always have 1 or 2 that are down and out. But there are a couple really important things that you have to think about when you are getting started with Turo. So let's dive in and talk about what some of those things are. So first, if you're enjoying this content, go ahead and give us a big thumbs up. Those likes help train the algorithm and get this video out to people who might need this information. I'm trying to share everything with full transparency. So to start this off, I would like to say that one of the most important things to think about when it comes to Turo is that it is not all sunshine and rainbows. And by that, I would say one of the biggest lessons for me to learn, even though I haven't sold a car yet, is I've learned over these 2.5 years that I should start really thinking about when it makes the most sense to exit, because I have had to put some substantial amount of money that I've learned over the course of time. So for example, let's dive into my spreadsheet here where I can show you some of the numbers and show you how it's starting to change whether things make sense or not. So let's take a look real quick. And if you see here in our spreadsheet, what we have right here is our 2012 Acura RDX. Now, the thing about this car, from October 2023 when I bought it until about January of this year, it was one of our best top performing vehicles, had the most trips, it was always utilized, and barely put any money into the car. And then from January of this year until now, it has been an absolute headache and nightmare. So I would say if there was anything that I learned during this time, it was that, man, in hindsight, if I could have sold that car in January, everything would have been great. Since then, we've had about 10 different issues with the power steering, took it to multiple different mechanics. They could not figure out what the issue was. We ended up having to put a transmission in it. This is where I learned about the importance of doing preventative maintenance on transmissions. That's why I preach so heavily about the importance of doing that. We've had to do a rack and pinion, which I never even knew was a thing. We've done the radiator, we've done spark plugs, all sorts of stuff. So anyway, if you look, this is from January 1st, 2024 until the end of the year in 2024. As you can see, the 2012 Acura RDX was killing it. 15 grand in revenue almost, and like 600 and something dollars in expenses. Now, that does not include, this is maintenance only. That does not include getting the car cleaned. It does not include its membership to the car wash, the insurance. It doesn't include any of those, the tracking device, but you know, let's just say all in it was probably about 2 grand in expenses for the year, something like that. Now, if we change it to 2025, we're going to see a substantial difference in how this car performs. So now our Acura RDX has brought in $6,526 in revenue, and the maintenance expenses were $7,748 year to date, which is absolutely nuts. So currently, year to date, we are losing money on this vehicle. The car has depreciated heavily, especially since we've had to put in all those replacement parts. And it is eating up into last year's profits, which is just not good. So that's what I mean when I say I've really learned that I have to think a lot harder about when to get rid of the cars. I used to have the philosophy that I'll just keep the car until the wheels fall off, and I actually do think that that holds true in a lot of instances. It just depends. You know, I never would have thought that an Acura, which is basically a Honda, it would have a transmission issue and unforeseen, hard to diagnose power steering problems, and all of these issues at 118,000 miles. I just found that absolutely fascinating. So that to me has been one of the hidden things that caught me by surprise when it came to Turo, is even when you're buying these reliable old economy cars, you still are going to come into some of these crazy problems when it comes to maintenance. Like, it's not a Ford or a GM or a Dodge or a Chrysler or something like that, where it's pretty known that you're going to have all sorts of crazy issues. So to me, I found this to be an incredible learning opportunity. And now as we move forward with our fleet, even though I am keeping this car because I've already sunk all this money into it and it seems to be working fine now, I am starting to think like, well, you know, maybe if mechanics can't figure out for sure what the problem is, maybe it is time to look into getting it fixed as best as possible and looking at getting rid of it instead of waiting until something else bursts or breaks or whatever. But I also think on the other side of the coin, if my preventative maintenance is now flawless, which we've gotten a lot better about, maybe we won't have some of these massive surprises that come up. So definitely keep that in mind when you're thinking about your fleet. But continuing from there, I think some of the pros of Turo are pretty obvious, and let's dive in and take a look at those now. So obviously there's a lot of benefits when it comes to Turo. For me, I find this to be incredibly valuable when it comes to my taxes. I find now I am not a licensed CPA, I'm not an accountant, I'm not any of those things, but I can say that when you operate a business that has a lot of expenses, there comes tax benefits with that. So whether you're able to depreciate your vehicles, write off your purchases, your expenses and the maintenance and all of that stuff, as long as you're reinvesting into the business and you continue to put money into it, like I'm scaling my fleet year over year. You saw we had 8 cars to end last year. We now just hit 17. Obviously, at the bare minimum, all of those cash purchases I made can write off my income. So I'm able to basically generate all this excess of revenue, and since I'm just reinvesting it into the business, you don't really have to pay much in taxes on it, just the leftover profit after all of the purchases that you've made, which really helps. So that way you're getting all this money in, you're growing your business. Now, of course, there's going to come a time where you're going to cap exactly how many cars you're going to be able to buy or put in your area or go to another market. And then at that point, once your fleet is absolutely massive, then you're going to have a massive tax bill because of all the revenue coming in. But this is not financial advice. I know absolutely nothing about how taxes work, but I can tell you that during these early years while we've been scaling, we basically have been able to break even on the business, so that's been hugely beneficial to me. Another thing, this is allowing me to travel the world with my family because we have such a high regular spend in our business that we're constantly using credit cards that build points, and we have the revenue coming in to pay the credit card off in full. We don't carry a balance to the next month. We're not paying interest. We're not doing any of that nonsense. But because we're able to have a lot of revenue and cash flow coming in, it's just basically constantly churning money, which means we are churning points from January 31st until now, which is the beginning of November. We basically have accrued about 800,000 travel miles, which is ridiculous. I just booked my wife and daughter a business class flight with those points for 175,000 points to be able to go business class across the world to Japan. I'm now looking for my flight to be able to go and join them a few weeks later. So we're able to travel the world in luxury experiences just because of the cash flow and revenue that comes from this business, which I think is absolutely incredible. And there are so many other benefits to it. But I think when it comes to scaling, I see this mathematically so much easier. I can see the future clearly of how I can scale this business. And it's sad that with my primary business, my video production company, I just can't see it most of the time. I don't know if what I'm going to do is going to work. I don't know if I spend $10,000 on advertisements or this, that, or the other thing, if it's going to turn into a certain amount of money. I know that if I buy a car for anywhere in my deal box, let's say let's say $7,500. If I buy that car for $7,500, I know that I'll be able to generate revenue somewhere between $700 and $1,200 a month, and my net profit should be about 42.5%. So it's pretty simple. If I have the money, I buy the car, I now have purchased more income within the systems that I've built. Beyond that, Turo is a business where everyone says that it's passive income or it could be passive income. That's nonsense. Turo is not a passive business at all. You have to be on top of it, especially as the weather changes and then all of a sudden every single car you have, their tire pressure light comes on. You forgot about the oil change that's coming due soon. Like, you have to create all the systems to be able to make this more passive than it was before. And the goal is, as time goes on and as you scale your fleet, to be able to buy back more and more of your time. Replace it with people going and cleaning the cars for you. Replace you taking the car to the local mechanic shop by having a mobile mechanic come to you. There are so many different things you can do to remove yourself from the business, but the idea of it ever being truly passive is a complete farce. That's never going to happen. No matter what, you still have to oversee the people who are doing the work in your business, and you still have to focus on the higher level tasks. So the main goal is to remove yourself from the mundane day-to-day stuff that anybody, a trained monkey, could do, like cleaning the car or driving it over to the mechanic shop, and focusing just on the acquisition. For me, I know my strongest point is being able to buy the next car. I know where to find that deal. You've seen where I show how I find profitable Turo cars, one of my most popular videos. You will see how I find the car. I negotiate like a champion. I do the best I can. We've done episodes on how I negotiate, so you'll be able to see all that information. That's what I'm good at. So I should focus on purchasing the next vehicle that's going to make me that 42.5% profit margin. That's going to bring in that $800, $1,000 a month of revenue. That should be my focus, not going and cleaning the cars. So those are really the pros of Turo and what I think are super important. I'd love it if you left a comment down below. Let me know what you've learned as far as your Turo fleet is concerned, what one of the biggest lessons are that you've taken home during that time. And now let's take a look at some of the cons of Turo. So when it comes to Turo, there are three main profit killers, and I would say that that is rapid depreciation, you have your insurance deductibles, and then unforeseen maintenance or breakdown. So when it comes to rapid depreciation, this is something that, especially now as we're seeing the economy kind of in this unstable spot, we really don't know how this is affecting the car market as much. So for me, my goal is to try not to get rid of cars for as long as I possibly can, because I know that even though I'm buying the cheapest, bottom of the depreciation curve car, I'm still seeing cars depreciate faster than I thought. When I first got into the business, we'll go back to the Acura RDX, those small SUVs hold their value better than any other make and model car. Now, a RAV4 probably holds it a little better than an Acura RDX, but whatever. It's all, you know, small SUV, the least depreciated car on the face of Earth. So I bought that for $10,750. 11,000? It might have been 11,000. Bought it for 11,000. I thought at 100,000 miles, even though I bought it at 70, that it would still be worth $9,000 or $10,000. And a year ago, that would have been true. Now it's probably worth like $5,000 or $6,000 because the economy is suffering. We are seeing this go in a direction that is just not good. So for me, it's, all right, how can we band-aid all this stuff together, keep doing our maintenance to make sure nothing happens? The car's only got 118,000 miles. It has a new transmission. It has a new radiator. The whole power steering system's new. The suspension's tight. No leaks from the engine. Turbo works perfectly fine. We're going to keep this sucker going. And same thing. We have some cars with 175,000 miles on it that are just running great. We've only had like hoses burst and stuff like that. So thankfully, we've been very lucky. But at this point, I just don't know how that's going to play out. And my main reasoning here is, if you buy a newer car, so let's say you go to the dealership and you want to finance a 2- or 3-year-old car with about 25,000, 30,000 miles on it, much similar to like what a Hertz or an Enterprise, a Dollar Thrifty, etc. would do, you're going to run into the problem where that car is going to depreciate so quickly. Even if it makes $15,000 in the year, you might have lost $6,000 or $7,000 just in depreciation alone, maybe even more. So that is a huge consideration of profit killers that you have to take into consideration when you're making a purchase. God forbid you do a brand new car, or you do something like a Mercedes or a BMW or something like that, where as soon as you take the car off the lot, even if it's used, you're going to lose 20%. So taking into consideration depreciation is one of the most important factors in your Turo fleet. I try to purchase cars, and that's one of the benefits of the cash economy model. I'm buying cars literally at the bottom of their depreciation curve. Yes, they can go down in price. I'm losing over years and tens of thousands of extra miles, 10, 20%, maybe 30%, okay, fine. Whereas somebody else might be losing 50%, 75%, something like that, and still not doing that well when it comes to their revenue. So that's one. The second one is going to be your insurance deductible. Now, if you've been following this channel, you already know that I am a huge fan of the 90-10 plan. These cars are cheap. They're going to get dented up, dinged up, scratched up, whatever. 9 times out of 10, I will obviously do the best I can to recuperate the costs as much as possible to make a profit off of them. But anything under that $2,500 deductible, it's hit or miss. You may get it, you may not. It's just the way that it works. So I know that if there is damage that has to be addressed, then I have to eat $2,500. Now, we have had one car totaled in our entire 2.5 years on Turo, and we ended up making a substantial profit on it, and we were very happy. It was valued at $10,000 and change. We bought it for $6,800, so we had almost a $4,000 spread, which for profit, so that was fantastic. We had the car, we rented it out. Now, where a lot of people go wrong is, again, if you go into that 90-10 model and you finance the car at the lot, or a brand new car, and then that car gets totaled, if you don't have it in the right spot of its depreciation, you're in big trouble. So that is a huge consideration, because not only are you going to eat the deductible, guaranteed you're losing the $2,500 at that point. You also have to worry about the gap too, because if that car is not worth as much as the estimate of what the total damage is, you got the $2,500 plus the difference. So if you bought a car, let's say a brand new car for $30,000, we know as soon as you drive off the lot, you lose 20%. So $24,000, let's say you've had it for 8 months, you put some mileage on it, you really haven't paid the debt down much, maybe you owe 23 on it now, 22 on it now, fine. The car gets totaled, Turo says it's only worth 20. Well, now you got your $2,500 deductible, plus the $3,000 gap from your debt to what they're willing to pay you. Whew, you're taking a $5,500 hit. So always be careful. You want to make sure that when you're purchasing cars, you are buying them at minimum 20% below market value. That's where I like to be on my cars. And again, like I've said, market value has changed. Now is arguably the best time to get in Turo, because the market has depreciated so much. You're able to go and look and find these cars much cheaper than I did when I bought the first half of my fleet, the first 75% of my fleet. Only the most recent couple of cars that I purchased are really, truly reflective of today's market prices. So everything else I have is already substantially less valuable than when I bought it. So if you're just thinking about getting into Turo, now is absolutely the perfect time. And if you didn't know, I do one-on-one consulting. So if you are interested in getting started on Turo and you have some specific questions that I can answer for you, or talk to you about your market or how you want to get started, you can book a one-on-one consultation with me. The link is in the description below. But anyway, the last one, like we were talking about early, is the maintenance. So when it comes to maintenance, of course, I've learned over the years paying more up front in preventative maintenance saves me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on maintenance. repair items that should not have happened. So if you're able to spend that extra money, take it out of the revenue of the car and do all of your fluid changes, do your tune-ups, all of that stuff, you will most likely save yourself from all of those unforeseen circumstances. I usually budget about $200 a month per vehicle, so on a 17-car fleet, I budget $3,400 a month, and I assume on average is going to go into the vehicles. I found that to be previously a little on the high side, but since we purchased a Ford pickup truck and we've had the issues with the Acura, we've also had to do a lot of suspension work on our Nissan Pathfinder, I am finding that that number is becoming more and more accurate. So if you have older cash economy cars like I do, earmark about $200 a month per car for maintenance, and I think you'll be in a safe zone. So where do I think you have to be for Turo to make sense? Well, to me, one car is not going to do it. It's nice just to have a little extra side money coming in, but it's almost more of a chore. A lot of the actual business elements are, are just what they are. And by that, I mean, once you build out your messaging and you have to respond to guests and you have to clean the car and do this, whether you do it for one car or 5 cars, the amount of time is not that much different. It's more just how you handle your systems and everything like that. So to me, one car, not really worth it. I think once you get to about 4 or 5 cars, then you're going to start seeing like, hey, there's an actual business here. It's not going to replace your 9 to 5. I think once you get to like 10, 12 cars, now we're starting to talk about a secondary income. So like if you had a spouse that was working or something, that person can kind of retire. When you're talking truly an income that people can live off of, I would say you probably have to be in the 20 to 25 car range, at least for my standard of living. I'd like to be close to about $10,000 a month to really truly feel comfortable, and that's in profit. So a really good piece of advice that I got from a friend of mine was don't focus so much on how much you're going to pay yourself. So like I said, for me, I would like about $10,000 a month from this business to be truly happy in terms of profit. Revenue doesn't matter. But instead of looking at it as I want to pay myself $10,000 out of my business, that puts you in a high tax situation. Instead, look at what expenses can you put in the business that you personally have, that once they go in the business become a write-off, then that's less money you have to pay yourself, less money you have to pay taxes on. Again, not financial advice, but just advice that I received from a friend, and I'd like to share advice that I learned. So maybe your phone could become your business phone, so your phone plan goes in there, your vehicle or, gas or something like that. A lot of people get a company card for gas, stuff like that. Just thinking creatively about how I can put more expenses in the business to help reduce my tax burden and reduce the amount of income that I would need to live personally is something interesting to think about. So that was some of the best advice I ever received. But again, for me, I think just looking at it brass tacks, 4 or 5 cars, you start to take Turo more seriously. That's when it starts to look like it could be a big business for you. 10, 12 cars, it's starting to replace secondary income, in my opinion. Once you get up to about 20, 25 cars, that's when you have a serious, job equivalent income, in my opinion. I think you'd be close to about an $8,000 to $10,000 a month profit margin if you have 20 to 25 cars after cleaning and maintenance and all that other stuff is taken into consideration. So I'd love to know what are your goals, and if you found this video helpful, you made it this far, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more information. I hope that I earned that from you, and I would love to continue to share more information about how I've built this Turo business. So let me know what you think, and my name is Brandon. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody.